Reindeer farm faces closure amid license dispute, threatening rural livelihoods and cultural heritage. By Staff Correspondent. A small reindeer farm that has become both a local economic pillar and a symbol of regional heritage is facing imminent closure after a prolonged licensing dispute with local authorities. The disagreement, which has escalated over the past year, has sparked debate about rural regulation, animal welfare standards, bureaucratic rigidity, and the survival of traditional farming practices in a rapidly modernizing world. At the center of the controversy is Northvale Reindeer Farm, a family-run operation located on the outskirts of a remote rural community. For more than 2 decades, the farm has raised reindeer for educational programs, ecotourism, and seasonal cultural events. Now, its future hangs in the balance as officials warn that failure to secure a renewed operating license could force the farm to shut its gates permanently. A farm rooted in tradition. Northvale Reindeer Farm was established in the early 2000s by the Holmgren family, who were inspired by Northern European reindeer husbandry traditions. What began as a modest project with just a handful of animals gradually evolved into a well-known attraction, drawing visitors from across the country during winter festivals and school holidays. The farm currently houses nearly 60 reindeer, cared for by a small team of full-time staff and seasonal workers. Over the years, it has hosted thousands of schoolchildren, offering hands-on lessons about animal care, ecology, and indigenous Arctic cultures. For us, this farm is not just a business, said Eric Holmgren, the founder and owner. It's a way of preserving knowledge, connecting people to nature, and keeping rural traditions alive. The license dispute explained. The current crisis stems from changes in regional animal licensing regulations introduced last year. Under the updated framework, farms housing non-native or semi-domesticated animals must meet stricter requirements related to enclosure size, fencing materials, veterinary oversight, and emergency preparedness. According to local authorities, Northvale Reindeer Farm failed to meet several of these updated conditions when its operating license came up for renewal. The regulations apply equally to all animal facilities, said a spokesperson for the regional council. Our responsibility is to ensure public safety and animal welfare. Compliance is not optional. However, the farm's owners argue that the new requirements were introduced with insufficient consultation and impose financial and logistical burdens that small rural operations simply cannot absorb. Financial pressure and tight deadlines. Upgrading the farm to meet the new standards would require an estimated £250,000, a sum that Holmgren says is beyond reach without government assistance. We were given a deadline but no meaningful support, he said. We've already invested heavily in animal welfare. Now we're being asked to rebuild entire sections of the farm almost overnight. The council has offered a temporary extension, but officials insist that continued operation without full compliance is not possible beyond the grace period, which expires in early spring. If the license is not renewed, the farm will be legally required to relocate or rehome its reindeer, a task that experts say would be extraordinarily difficult due to limited facilities nationwide capable of accommodating such animals. Community reaction and public support. News of the potential closure has triggered a wave of support from the local community. An online petition calling for regulatory flexibility has gathered more than 40,000 signatures in just weeks. Residents have organized fundraising events, peaceful demonstrations, and letter-writing campaigns aimed at urging authorities to reconsider. This farm is part of our identity, said Laura Bennett, a local teacher whose students regularly visit the site. It's not just about tourism. It's about education, jobs, and a connection to nature that children don't get elsewhere. Local businesses have also voiced concern, noting that seasonal visitors to the reindeer farm provide crucial income during winter months, traditionally the slowest period for the rural economy. A broader debate on rural regulation. The dispute has reignited a wider national conversation about how regulations impact small, family-run enterprises compared to large commercial operations. Critics argue that one-size-fits-all policies often favor well-funded organizations while pushing traditional and educational farms out of existence. Rural businesses are being strangled by bureaucracy, said Dr. Helen Morris, an expert in agricultural policy. Regulations are essential, but they must be proportionate and context-sensitive. Supporters of stricter rules, however, maintain that animal welfare and public safety cannot be compromised, regardless of a facility's size or popularity. Animal welfare concerns. Animal rights groups have entered the debate, offering mixed reactions. While some have expressed sympathy for the farm, others argue that stricter oversight is long overdue. Reindeer are complex animals with specific environmental needs, said a representative from an animal welfare organization. Any facility keeping them must meet the highest standards. Holmgren counters that the farm has an excellent track record, with regular veterinary inspections and no history of welfare violations. Our reindeer are healthy, calm, and well cared for, he said. We invite anyone to come and see how we operate. Emotional toll on staff and families. For employees, the uncertainty has taken an emotional and financial toll. Several workers have been with the farm for more than a decade and fear losing both their jobs and their homes if the business closes. I can't imagine working anywhere else, said James Carter, a senior animal caretaker. These animals are part of my life. The Holmgren family has also spoken openly about the stress of potentially losing a legacy built over generations. There are sleepless nights, Eric Holmgren admitted. Not just for us, but for our staff and for the animals. Political attention and calls for mediation. As public pressure grows, regional lawmakers have begun to take notice. Several politicians have called for mediation between the farm and licensing authorities to explore alternative solutions. This situation demands dialogue, not deadlines, said one opposition lawmaker. We must find a way to protect animal welfare without destroying rural heritage. Government officials have indicated they are open to discussion but emphasize that legal frameworks must be upheld. Tourism industry impact. The potential closure also threatens the region's tourism sector. Northvale Reindeer Farm has been featured in travel guides and holiday campaigns, attracting families seeking seasonal experiences outside major cities. Tour operators warn that losing the farm would reduce the area's appeal and weaken winter tourism, which is already vulnerable to unpredictable weather and rising costs. This isn't just one farm, said a tourism board representative. It's an entire ecosystem of small businesses. What happens to the reindeer? Perhaps the most pressing concern is the fate of the animals themselves. Relocating reindeer is complex, expensive, and risky, especially for animals accustomed to a specific environment and caretakers. Experts caution that forced relocation could lead to stress-related health problems. These animals form social bonds, explained a wildlife veterinarian, disrupting that can have serious consequences. The farm's owners insist that closure would be devastating not only economically but ethically. A question of cultural value. Beyond economics and regulation, the dispute has raised philosophical questions about how societies value cultural and educational institutions. Reindeer farming, while uncommon, holds symbolic significance connected to northern heritage, sustainability, and human-animal relationships. Once something like this disappears, it rarely comes back, said cultural historian Professor Alan Reeves. We often realize its value only after it's gone. Searching for a compromise. Several compromise solutions have been proposed, including phased compliance, partial funding assistance, or special licensing categories for educational farms. Whether these ideas will gain traction remains uncertain, but supporters argue that flexibility is essential if traditional rural enterprises are to survive. We're not asking for exemptions, Holmgren said. We're asking for fairness. The road ahead. With the deadline approaching, time is running out. Negotiations continue behind closed doors, while supporters hope that public pressure will lead to a breakthrough. For now, the reindeer graze peacefully, unaware of the legal battle surrounding them. For those who care for them, the uncertainty is unbearable. This farm represents something rare, said Bennett. If we let it disappear, we lose more than reindeer. We lose a piece of who we are. Conclusion. The license dispute threatening Northvale Reindeer Farm is more than a regulatory disagreement. It is a test case for how modern governance balances rules with reality, efficiency with empathy, and progress with preservation. As authorities weigh their next steps, the outcome will send a powerful message to rural communities everywhere, whether tradition and small-scale enterprise still have a place in an increasingly regulated world. For the Holmgren family, their staff, and thousands of supporters, the hope remains that common sense and cooperation will prevail before it is too late.